Friends of mine immediately called the emergency. It would have been my death. My left body side was completely paralyzed after that. I wasn't realizing what's going on, why I'm more deaf than alive. It was only the beginning of this very horrible disease I had to suffer. It changed completely my life, the circumstances of my life, my perception, my thinking, and my whole perspective on life.
Hey everybody, great to have you here as always, and a big welcome to you if you're listening to the show for the first time. For this one, I sit down with Rolf Meyer. At 16, a sudden brain hemorrhage turned his world upside down, forcing him into a year of hospitals and rehab. What could have been the end of his story instead became the beginning of a new path, one that led him into psychology, neuroscience, and a deeper understanding of the human spirit. In this episode, Rolf shares what his journey taught him about resilience, adaptability, gratitude, the power of support systems, and the importance of living fully in the present. What a great story this one was. Do please let me know how you guys found it. If you could kindly like, subscribe, and leave a review, I'd really appreciate it, and it means that we can reach more men who are navigating their journey. Thank you so much. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage podcast. Enjoy. Rolf, welcome to the show.
Yeah, many thanks for the invitation and meeting you during holiday, getting in contact with you. It's an awesome opportunity for me also being in this podcast, and I'm very happy about it, yeah?
Yeah, absolute pleasure to have you join us. And for a bit of background, we met in Bali at Little Spoon Cafe, and naturally, I believe we're drawn to each other. Got to know a little bit about your story, but I'm really intrigued to find out more. Tell me where your growth journey begins for you. Tell me about the moment where your life really started to shift.
Yeah, it was immediately after completing high school. During the party of completing high school, I suffered this brain hemorrhage because of a rupture of an aneurysm. Yeah, it changed completely my life, the circumstances of my life, and my perception, my thinking, and my whole perspective on life. Yeah.
Let's dive into this moment then. So before then, I presume it was a relatively normal upbringing, normal childhood, and then this happens. So talk me through, where did this hemorrhage come from? When did you first start experiencing symptoms? Was it an accident? Tell me a bit more about how your life was like before the incident and what happened in the events leading up to it.
Before I was a normal guy, 16 years old, having a great time with friends, partying, went to school. Everything was normal, let's say normal, but everything was like a common German guy going to school, completing school, having a great time. And then I fell down during the party, celebrating completing high school. I fell down on my head and on my eye, which sounds very horrible in the first step, but in the second step, it was my luck of falling on my eye with a huge bleeding also on my eye. And because of that, friends of mine immediately called the emergency. I was getting in hospital, and there it began a further journey. It wasn't. It was only the beginning of this, let's say, very, very horrible disease I had to suffer, because when a guy falls down on a party thing, then many people would say, put him in bed. He's too drunk. He would get up and everything would be okay. And it would have been my death when this would have been the decision of my friends. But they immediately called the emergency. And I was getting in the first hospital. They immediately have seen that it's something with the brain and some hemorrhage in the brain. I flew via helicopter in a specialized clinic with a specialized intensive care unit specialized in neurological diseases and brain damages. And then had an emergency surgical intervention in which half of my skull was opened to give the brain a little space for swelling. It's the normal procedure they normally do with these aneurysms in the brain. Yeah, it's a little difficult to explain because the brain anatomy is little special, because it wasn't a hemorrhage directly in the brain, but in the surrounding areas of the brain, but causing this fall with the eye on the ground. Then I was in hospital in an intensive care unit. Suffered a second hemorrhage in the brain, immediately in the brain, which caused probably much more damage than the first one. And after that, let's say approximately 1 week later, there were some other complications, very serious complications, like small little strokes in the brain, which are also very, very dangerous in these cases.
Yeah, let's jump into that. Well, and first of all, I think it's so awesome that your friends actually called someone up and got you help. There's been quite a few stories now where I've heard people get into accidents while they're drunk and their friends maybe put them to sleep or put them in bed, and then they've woken up dead the next day. So I think that's really fantastic that even though you were young and partying and you were all under the influence of alcohol, that they had the sense of awareness to send you there. So I think that's really awesome. You said you went into a helicopter, you go into ICU. Are you aware at all of what's going on, or are you completely unconscious at this point?
I was completely unconscious. The first thing I remember after that was a situation in the intensive care unit with my father and a physiotherapist giving me a little therapy, a little movement in my left body side, because my left body side was completely paralyzed after that. This is the first memory I have of getting awake again. Yeah, I wasn't realizing what's going on, why I'm more dead than alive. This was also wasn't a question I had, but to that time point, it was very, very serious, very serious. The medical doctors said always to my parents, yeah, we don't know what to do. We have all options done now. And what happens now is very, very insecure.
So at this point, can you communicate at all, or are you just observing what's going on? You mentioned the left side of your body was paralyzed. Are you even aware of your thoughts? Can you communicate anything? What's your situation here?
Yeah, I was in a very delirious state of mind. I couldn't understand what's going on, but I could verbally express myself a little, you know, which led to some weird stuff. I told my parents, I told my family that I would be a kind of monk thing, doing this, doing that, without knowing it, without being in consciousness of what I say in that moment. Some sentences I said also better to be not conscious about it. Yeah, but it's this typical delirium, post-operative delirium thing. Then I suffered. Yeah.
Was there fear going on? Were you fearful, or were you just confused? Or I guess at this point, even though you'd noticed what was going on, you still had no real idea. Like, what were the emotions that were coming up, if any?
I wasn't in pain because I was full of painkillers, I think, to that moment. Some medical doctors told me also, yeah, there is another way of being completely in a rush on opiates in that state. I wasn't really in fear. It was more the situation that I was completely confused of being in hospital, because I also told my parents and family, yeah, why I'm here. I want to go there, which is also the consequence of the brain damage, because I wasn't realizing my left side. I wasn't realizing that my left side is paralyzed. And I can't see anything to my left body side and to the left visual side. I was living only in a right 90-degree right perspective, which was also confusing for me then, being in hospital, not recognizing my left body side, even also don't recognizing that it's paralyzed. And because of that, my consciousness of being in that situation wasn't existent to that point. It took a long time of getting aware of what has happened and what consequences there are now after this thing.
Yeah, let's dive into that then. So you're slowly regaining consciousness and awareness of what's actually going on. Talk to me about this process. When do you understand the severity of what's going on? What even is going on? And what the outlook was for you, what the doctors were saying to you at this time?
Yeah, I would like to explain the further time then. It was 6 weeks on the ICU and on the intensive care unit because of all many different things then happened, which was a very bad perspective for me to that time. Then I was not in an ICU, but on a normal care unit in a hospital for 1 week, and then in a specialized clinic for early neurological rehabilitation, which is the normal case in the health system in Germany, that the patients go normally in the first step in an early phase of rehabilitation, which is a specialized clinic, but it was a different hospital then. And in that hospital, I recognized, because of the rehab and the physiotherapy, the occupational therapy, and especially neuropsychology, what has happened. Before that, I haven't seen the problem, because I was so unaware of my left body side that it was so difficult to understand, what is the situation. Then in the early phase of rehabilitation in the specialized clinic, I recognized, this has happened. I can't use my left body side. And it was very frustrating for me to that time, recognizing, what I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't go by bicycle. I couldn't walk. I wasn't able to walk. I wasn't able to go by bicycle. I wasn't able to play drums, which was horrible. The most horrible aspect for me, because before that I was a drummer. I was a very enthusiastic drummer, focusing on physical aspects, on precision, on speed while playing the drum set, which was very frustrating, recognizing, I can't play the drums anymore. And I knew what I just played before, because my memory, my episodic memory and semantic memory wasn't affected at all, which made it even more frustrating, because I knew what I used to do, like playing drums, walking, going by bicycle, and then recognizing, I can't do that, I can't do this anymore. I have to deal with this situation now, not having the ability to walk anymore, to live an independent life,
Yeah, I can't even imagine going through that. So I'm just picturing it now. You're lying down there, you're being told you're not going to be able to go outside, go and do your favorite things, play on the drums. You mentioned you were very frustrated there. Did you have any concept of how to navigate this inner turmoil? Was there any advice given to you? And had you had any hope at this point? Did you think that your situation would improve? Tell me what's going on in your mind there.
Many therapists told me it takes time. It takes time, but I couldn't hear this anymore at some point. That everyone told me, you have to be conscious. You have to be patient. You have to be patient as shit now in the recovery process. Focus on yourself. Focus on yourself always. Which is in retrospective the best way of getting used to my situation, because I know one situation in the early phase of rehabilitation. I was damn frustrated also because of a therapy session which didn't work that properly. It was very exhaustive of training my left body side again, in getting control of it, feel it little. During the night, I had a very strange situation in which I questioned myself. Well, there are two ways now of getting used to this situation. The one way is getting lost in my situation, in giving up. This would be the easiest way. I was conscious about it. thinking about that it would be a way, let's say a way, in getting used to the situation, or the other way would be to accept now this situation and try to do my best in recover. Try to do my best in rehab and recovery, which was also then a conscious decision in saying me, what would my family say when I would say, I give up now. It would be horrible for my family. It would be horrible for me that there wouldn't be any change anymore. I decided, now focus on yourself and try to do your best in rehabilitation. Don't think that much about what you can't do anymore, but focus more on what's remaining, on what was remaining.
I love that. And I think it's really cool that you came to that conclusion yourself. I think it's a really tricky one to do in the moment because, of course, you've just had this really nasty life altering accident. Of course, you would want to feel sorry for yourself and stay in the despair, but it's almost as if you had no other option but to believe, right? To hope and to provide a positive outlook for yourself because there's no other option. I think it's really cool that you came to that conclusion naturally. So once you decided, okay, I have no choice but to keep on going, then did you see your outer reality reflect that? Talk me through those milestones then in your recovery journey. Were there any setbacks at all? How did you maintain that mental strength throughout it all?
Yeah, I have to say that my family was very, very important, was the most important aspect in this whole process. Without my family, I wouldn't have recovered that well because they always try to be as supportive as possible. My mother was always there. My mother was suffering also with me during the acute phase and during the rehab phase, seeing me being frustrated, always giving me some support, like my brother, my father, my mother. They always try to structure their daily life, their daily routine that way to give me the most comfortable feeling because they had to go by car for an hour from my hometown to the hospital in visiting me. They managed it that I had every day at least one family member for visiting me, and it was a very, very, in retrospective, a very cool experience. And I always told them, I always tell them actually that I can't say how happy I am to have them supporting me. And they say normally then, it's ridiculous to say that we do that. Of course, we do that, which is also then for me a sign of having a very, very lovely, great family, great friends, giving me help, giving me support, not showing me what I can't do, but showing me what I still can do and what kind of perspectives there are.
Well, I think that support system was obviously so important for you. We talked about your friends right at the moment it happened. They got you the help that you needed. And I love that everyone was there at least one day at a time. And in that way, you've got that support, you've got that hope, you've got that belief. It keeps on reinforcing this message that there is a life outside of there and people are with you along this journey. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially then in the other rehab clinic, it was a specialized clinic then for young adults and children, which was awesome because I was 16 years old and in a very young age. In the early phase of rehabilitation, there were many older people, which was awesome also. I liked them a lot and they gave me some support. Then, for example, one situation in the early rehabilitation phase with another patient, his right body side was paralyzed and my left one was paralyzed, And we thought about it. We had 2 cups of cream which were closed. And we couldn't open it on our own. And I couldn't open the cup and he also. And then we thought about it. Let's collaborate. This guy, he had also difficulties while speaking. Then we connected to each other and collaborated in opening our dessert thing after lunch, and it worked. It was a sign for me of recognizing, the situation is horrible now, but there are ways of getting used to this situation. It was a very cool experience in getting to know that mandatory to go in a collaboration, and you can trust also on people you collaborate with, you know?
That's such a beautiful story. I really, really enjoyed listening to that. And it just goes to show no matter how bad or tricky situations get, I think you can always find pockets of joy and gratitude within those. And
Yeah.
no matter where you are actually in life, I think it just goes to show us the simple things is that connection. And throughout all of this, it's okay, what's the most important thing? Well, okay, there's your health, but then there's okay, even there you could find gratitude in the fact that you're still alive perhaps and that you're still going. And then you can also find so much, I think, gratitude in the connection aspect as well, and feeling that with your friends, with your family. It's clear to me that that was such an important part of your journey, was this sense of connection, right? So important. Really, really cool.
In the further rehab phase, in this more specialized clinic on children and young adults, it was awesome. It was awesome on the one hand. It was awesome because there are many other people in the same age, in the same stage, suffering brain diseases like accidents, like cancers, like strokes, or whatever. And on the other hand, it was also good for me in not taking me and my situation not that serious, because it was a horrible situation for me in my case. But seeing a friend of mine being in that rehab center for the fifth time, because he had the fifth surgical intervention because of a cancer in the brain, and the fifth time being then in neurological rehabilitation, trying to recover. You know, it showed me it isn't necessary to take your situation, exaggerate how serious it is when you see others suffering much more burden and disability because of their diseases they suffer, you know?
Yes. Yeah, it puts things into perspective. And this is why I love men's circles now, because you'll be there with your mind and your problems. But then when you speak with other men and they talk about their problems and the stuff that they're going through, you realize, oh, okay, wow, like that's really bad. It makes me feel grateful for the problems that I have. And I think that again, it just comes down to community. I think that's the biggest lesson coming from your story so far, how you can cultivate gratitude by just having that sense of connection with other people. And I think it forces you to have empathy as well. When you go through these tough times, you start to have empathy for other people. And I think empathy can be difficult to cultivate if you haven't been through tough times yourself, right? I'm keen to find out the stages further along in your recovery then. So I imagine you keep going through these setbacks, you've had a shift in mindset and you're starting to cultivate a bit of gratitude and your perspective on things has started to shift. But talk to me about near the end of that journey, what's coming up for you there when you start to get real evidence that, okay, it's not just time I need to rely on now. Now I'm actually starting to see progress. What is going through your mind here?
Yeah, I was very, very happy about it. It went very fast that I could move my left body side a little. It was a cool basis, recognizing, yeah, I can move my left leg now a little. And with this little things, I recognized, yeah, let's work with that. Let's focus exactly on that and improve that. And yeah, it was also my sense of for music and my sense for playing drums. It was always my goal of playing drums again. Yeah, you know. And this helped me a lot in goal setting, finding out about ways of playing the drums in a different way in the beginning. Then after a couple of months in recovery, I could move my left side better and better, was improving more and more and more. And it was always the goal of playing music and playing drums again, which helped me a lot in getting to know about for what I do this recovery then, you know?
Mm, yeah, and I imagine just having that goal in mind will keep you motivated too. Just having that vision to work towards, and every time you play the drums, whereas before it was just about constant improvement. Now it's like, hey, I just want to be able to play this and be able to move my body the way it used to again. So I imagine just having that as a goal has sort of kept you motivated to keep on going. And I imagine that's probably what you visualized while you were in hospital, right? That's probably the vision that you were cultivating
Yeah.
in your mind, visualizing the outcome at the end. Was it this goal setting? How important was that for you? Because I'm really intrigued to hear about how the mind works in this recovery, right? We had a guy called Aaron Timms on the show, and he was never supposed to walk again, but within 12 weeks he managed to walk again. And he said that it was because of the power of his mind that he refused to believe that there was any other option than to walk again. And he started visualizing the way he like kicking a football and walking around.
Yeah.
So was there any aspect of visualization in your journey?
Yeah, my right body side was my little like a role model, little like a model of how it should be. You know, in movement, playing the drums with the right body side is kind of a comparable movement to the left side, and I always try to think, being conscious what I do with my right side, and then transform it on the left side. What I should do with my left side in playing the drums and what I did for that. You know, it was more that perspective concerning playing drums. But when it comes to walking and being secure while walking, it was more the learning by doing process. You know, it was a small step in standing up. It was more being in that moment, learning from that moment, and not that focusing on what do I have to do with my left body side to walk again. This perspective was more when playing drums. What I have to do with my left body side. With walking, it was more doing. You know, in some moments, I thought about it is even better to be in the present moment, not thinking too much of the future, of the goals you want to achieve, and also not thinking about the past. You live in the moment, and you can't, you can only experience the moment. Sometimes I thought about it. It is the best way in doing it. You can also think about doing something and visualize it, overthink it, or what should I have to do. But in case of walking, and also in case of playing drums, you can't learn playing drums again without sitting on a drum set doing it. You know, this was also a cool experience that you have to do things to learn them.
Yes. Yeah, that's such an important point because I feel like, especially in your situation, very easy to look at the past and the life you had before this accident and how maybe well your perception of things were going at the time. But then I think also when we get very attached to the goal and we get very attached to this outcome, I think there's a lot of danger to that. And I've researched a bit into this now, where the findings that I got was that the more you sort of focus on this goal and focus on this end goal that you have in mind, what happens is it actually creates more distance between you and the goal. So it actually makes it harder for you from a mental standpoint because it just seems so far out of reach. So I really like this idea of, okay, cool, let's just take action. I think that's such an important point because I think a lot of our mental health struggles come because we're either focusing too much on the past or we're focusing too much on the future, right? And this causes anxiety. And I think the best way to get rid of anxiety is just by doing the thing. I think we have a tendency in the self development community or the self development space to over strategize and over complicate stuff. And I think goal setting's great, right? Having these milestones that you reach, but without getting fixated on them. And then that way you can just focus on doing the work. Okay, what do I need to do to get closer to this goal? What's one thing? What's one thing I can do? And for you, it was, okay, let's just get onto the set of drums. It's not, okay, I want to finish this. I want to play in a band and I want to tour the whole of Europe, whatever it may be. It's, okay, let's just get on the drumstick and see if we can get this side of my body moving again. And it's, how do you do that? It's by taking action. So I think that's a really, really important point. And I think what may have also happened to you, I'd be interested to hear your perspective. But what can happen is when we overfixate on a goal and we believe achieving that goal will make us feel a certain way, what happens is when we achieve that goal, that can actually cause a big depression after, a big setback, because you thought that this goal was going to give you the feeling of joy that you were craving. So was there any element of that for you where you'd finally done the thing that you wanted to do and you were left disappointed, or did you manage your expectations beforehand?
Yeah, it was. It is a very, very interesting point you made because I recognize it in my personal situation that the more precise my goals used to be, the higher the likelihood of getting depressed and not reaching these goals. For example, let's stay with the drumming thing. I was a very technical drummer before that. It was always the, let's say, final goal, being exactly that fast and precise in playing drums like I was before. Yeah, at some point I was a little frustrated also because of this goal, because I knew to some point that this wouldn't be possible to be in the exactly same ability like before. And then found out about is it really that necessary to be that focused on that goal, or wouldn't it be better to explore other goals, to get more into music, into experiencing music, understanding the nature of music, but the nature of music as a communication aspect, as a communication thing, more than being a sports thing, you know? Yeah, with that, I just accepted a little that it won't be the same way as before, but it isn't that necessary to be too frustrated about it because there are many other aspects in playing drums and playing music which are awesome also. It was also a special moment then being back home again, being into drumming lessons also, which was also awesome of my teacher. That he adopted perfectly to my former situation, to the situation I was in, you know, accepting it. Yeah, he can't do this. He can't play the drums that fast and precise anymore, and giving me then the ability, also the impression from me to understand that and not trying to force me in learning to play that precise and fast as before, but letting me little do. And it was a very cool situation because after, let's say, 1 year after being back home again, that means, let's say, 1.5 years or 2 years after the stroke, I experienced a cool moment in which I played exercises, technical exercises on the drum set, which were much higher than before my stroke. That means it worked, by the way, without putting me under pressure in achieving this goal, in being that precise and fast again. It was an automated process, which is also very, very cool of my teacher. When I think about it now, my teacher made it perfectly without putting me under pressure, giving me some exercises to give me good, comfortable feeling while playing drums in the first step, and in the second step, yeah, then thinking probably it will work after a couple of months like before. There won't be a big difference, you know.
Yes. And I imagine that even just going after this new goal or this new way of being, it manages your or shifts your expectations, right? It's suddenly like, okay, coming to terms with, hey, I'm not going to be at that former level before, but let's find out a different way of doing things and find the joy in that. And I think just taking yourself out of this former belief system that things have to be a certain way and being so rigid and stuck with that and being able to move through and adapt, and it doesn't make your new goals any less meaningful, right? They're still meaningful, right? Because it's still a big jump for you even to go from this step to this step, whereas before the incident, you were here and you wanted to go here. It's still a big jump, right? And there's still meaning in that. And I think it all links back to the gratitude piece, right? At this stage, I presume you're just happy to be playing the drums again. And I think it's really cool that you're your teacher played an instrumental part in that, which again links back to this idea of just how blessed you were in the sense of the community, the people that you had around you during this time.
Exactly. Especially the drumming thing. I immediately began playing in some big bands I played before, before this hemorrhage in the brain, and they were also awesome. They were very polite and very patient with me on the drum set, in giving me a very comfortable feeling. And it was surprising that how fast it was going for me, being, yeah, let's say, a good drummer again in this kind of bands and these kind of ensembles. I played percussion. I'm also a percussionist, and it was the same with that. I was in a small group of pupils learning the drums. And we also learned some African percussion stuff, some Cuban percussion stuff, some steel drums, some handpan stuff. And yeah, it was awesome also recognizing there that it works and my disability is not important at all in that band and music stuff, you know?
I mean, how powerful is that for your belief system, right? What a lesson that is. That, yeah, how many times do we get given a certain set of cards in life, certain set of circumstances, and you can either just stay there and just say, okay, why is this happening to me? I can't do anything about it. Or you can just try your best. And then I think the universe, the world will reward you for that. And I think it's so cool that you went from, what am I going to do? Despair to, okay, let's just keep going. We have no other fucking choice but to keep going. And hey, let's just see what we can do. And then you were able to create your own reality, right? And I think people supported that. People were very supportive and they enabled that. And I believe it's because you had that belief system that you could make it happen again. And that influenced your reality. People were happy to support that. So I think that's a really, really important lesson there and shouldn't be underestimated, that you can do anything you want no matter what circumstances you were given in life, which is really cool. I'm interested to hear if that was your ambition when you were younger. Did you want to be a drummer? Did you want to be a musician? Was that always your goal? And I'm also interested to hear about where your traumatic experience led you, because often we're told that our biggest trauma ends up playing a huge role in our purpose later on in life. So I would like to talk about what your original dream was versus the path that you've gone down on now.
Yeah, I have to say, I recognize a talk to a medical doctor in the second rehab center, asking me what I want to do for work therapy thing, you know. And to that time point, I was focusing on technical stuff. I was fascinated by technical stuff like aeroplanes, like cars, gear shifts, and modeling gear shifts, and building up gear shifts, and some this stuff. Yeah, it was yeah, let's say it was an interest, but not that strong interest in my goal setting. It was an interest, and I could think about it in the age of 16 of getting in that area, also with education, studying and stuff. But yeah, it changed a little because I was so fascinated after experiencing this hemorrhage in the brain and the consequences. I was so thrilled by exploring the brain function, by exploring the brain function, what goes on in the brain when we think, when we perceive visually, acoustic, when we solve problems, when we integrate some other information, that I completely focus on this aspect then, in getting to know about what's going on in the brain, or let's say what's going on in my brain, in my personal brain, when I perceive, when I walk, when I play music, when I do this, that, what kind of information is processed in which areas of the brain, you know? And I was focusing more and more on that aspect. And then going back to school, it has been always this interest in brain function that I wanted to do something in neurosciences, and then recognized, yeah, it is a good way in getting to the brain and brain function when I would focus on psychology in the first step, because it also involves the emotional aspect of brain damages. You know, suffering brain damages. The emotional aspect is an aspect which is prominent in psychology, which I was also interested in. My A levels were quite good then to study that subject, which is very hard in Germany to study psychology, because it's a huge run on the options and universities in that subject. That you have to have a very good A level. Or very good A levels to have the option of studying this. And yeah, fortunately, it worked out perfectly that I could study in a smaller university in Germany, which was also a university focusing on neuroscience. It was a very special interest from the university in focusing on neuroscience and yeah, the more cognitive aspect and clinical aspect of neuroscience. And yeah, it was for me then a very cool perspective to explore a methodology, some methods in exploring the brain function, in investigating the brain function. And after completing my bachelor degree, I decided to carry on with a special emphasis then on cognitive sciences, clinical neurosciences, and also in my thesis, in my master's thesis on altered states of consciousness evoked by relaxation. The topic was not that connected to the brain anymore, but on the other hand, it was always involving the brain, because also when we do meditation, when we do mindfulness training, when we do relaxation exercises, there's a bunch of things going on in the brain, you know?
I think it's super awesome that you ended up studying it with a real curiosity. And it's another blessing, really, in your life, because often I feel as though because our brain isn't fully developed until the age of 25, we make these big decisions to go and study a certain degree or a certain course.
Yeah.
But often, I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of the people I've spoken to, they've chosen a course because they thought it was just something they had to do or go to university, and they're not really sure about what they want to study. Maybe they'll go into lots of debt to finance it and then end up doing a completely different career path. So I think it's fantastic that so early on in your life, you were so sure of what you wanted to go into. And there was such a genuine curiosity there, which is why it's ended up being a successful career path. So I'm intrigued to hear about the coolest findings that you explored during your studies and exploration of the brain. But then you also mentioned altered states of consciousness as well. So tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I was very, very lucky hearing a talk from a scientist from a university in Gießen. It's a small city near to Frankfurt. This researcher focused on meditation research, and especially focusing on altered states of consciousness evoked by meditative states and yeah, mindfulness meditation, like also yoga, altered states of consciousness evoked by yoga, positive aspects, also negative aspects of meditation. And I got in contact with him and asked him whether it would be possible to write my bachelor's and master's thesis then later on. And yeah, he said, yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Then during that time, I focused even more on the present moment, which is the core thing about mindfulness, being in the present moment, finding out about positive aspects of being in that attitude, that state of mind, not focusing that much on the future, also not on the past, but more on the present moment, which gave me some insights on the one hand into psychological methods and neuroscience methods, but also how cool it is being in the moment, which is an aspect which isn't that common. I think in the actual time, we are always thinking about future, planning for the future, trying to understand the past, of being better prepared for the future, forgetting about a little about the present moment. You know.
And I'm really intrigued because we just had a chap called James on the podcast, and his research into this and through his own personal experience has found that the body actually heals itself while it's in a meditative state. Because I think it's very simple to say, okay, right, just stay in the present, and you don't want to focus on the past and you don't want to focus on the future because that's not beneficial to you, right? And we've spoken about taking action, and that present moment is only going to push you forwards. But from a neurological standpoint, in your studies, was there evidence then to suggest that the brain can repair itself? And how does mindfulness link in with that too when you're in a state of meditation? Yeah, I'm really intrigued to find out more about that.
Yeah, there are many research, especially after the 2000s, many research articles focusing on meditation, finding out that experienced meditators with, let's say, 50 or 60 years of experience in meditation, they have a completely different brain pattern and brain rhythms than non-meditators. Some brain patterns which could be only observed in non-meditators during near-death experiences, for example. And there's also structural, everything what we do, like sports, like some logical, philosophical, logical judging, always alters our brain structure. You know, everything what we do, what we experience, is processed by our brain, and because of that, it changes always a little depending on what we experience and what we do. And also during meditation, which is little known as for many people, doing nothing, only sitting down and doing nothing, which is very horrible, especially for many German people. They don't like doing nothing. There are many prejudices about meditation because of that, but it dramatically changes your brain structure in particular areas, which turns normally to better health, better stress management in general. Where when you are confronted with stressful situations, you are much better prepared of getting used to them than if you don't meditate or don't practice any mindfulness based stress reduction techniques.
I'm really intrigued by this, and I think it's great because there is a lot of skepticism around like altered states of consciousness and the impact that can have on you. And I've always seen meditation as a great way of connecting with something greater than yourself and realizing that you're perhaps more than your name and what you do on this earth. And why I liked your point a lot is that even the skeptics can look at that and look at the evidence and the research that points in the direction of the benefits of meditation. And I think that can be a great introduction to exploring their sense of self and who they actually are behind all the doing. So I really think this approach, this scientific approach, is really going to help bridge that gap and help perhaps wake more people up to their reality and realize that there's so much more to life than their day to day. So I think it's really important, the work that you're doing. Really, really cool. What we'll do now, we'll move into the closing traditions of the podcast, where we'll have two questions that we ask the guests every time, and these are routine. And then we will leave space for our Growth Voyage listeners to leave questions in the live stream chat. So if you are listening and tuning in and you have any questions that you'd like to ask Rolf, please drop them in the chat. The first question is a song recommendation that you have for the for the Growth Voyage listeners?
I would say I'm a huge Tool fan of heavy metal music, and yeah, enthusiastic Tool fan from drumming perspective, music theory perspective. Because of that, I would say I would recommend for, especially for the podcast, Descending from Tool, from the latest Tool album from Fear Inoculum. It's a great song. It's a very long. It's a kind of 50 minutes long. Different atmospheres, different topics, and different musical structures. Always, yeah. I would say to Descending from Tool would be a recommendation. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, is it something that you've learned to play on the drums yet, or will that come?
Not the, particular this song from Tool, but there are many other songs from Tool which I played on drums in former times. But this song is more fascinating because of the atmosphere which is created. There, like many Tool songs, are experimenting a little with different sounds. There are like some rain sounds, some other atmospheric sounds, thunderous tones. And also because of some lyrics in that song, yeah, pointing out to stay alive, you know.
That's awesome. I'll definitely check it out. And I love asking these questions because there's always so much emotion tied to it, right? And it brings out an emotion for the listener. So I'm pleased that it's resonated with you. The second question is a book recommendation.
Let me think. Book. In fact, I have to check. I have to check my bookshelf. For me, a very cool book in exploring functions of the brain and the combination between technical stuff, technical implants, and neurorehabilitation would be Neurobionics from a German researcher. It's called Hans Werner Bothe and Michael Engel.
Neurobionic. Okay, fantastic. I'll put it in the show notes as well, so people can check it out.
But just for saying, I don't know whether it's also translated in English. I only know the German version, but probably there are other books about neurobionics, which for sure they will contain the same evidence and same studies cited in this book. But this is for me a very interesting perspective in also the future.
What's the prediction for the future, do you think, or based on what you've learned from that book?
Yeah, what I think it is only a question of time of understanding the language of the brain. You know, especially in the actual time of artificial intelligence. I think within the next couple of years we will probably find out about the specific language of the brain and also specific language of the brain in recovery. In recovering altered functions of the brain and impaired functions of the brain, with or without technical implants, which is also a very difficult question. I think you have to be very cautious about it because I wouldn't put a chip in my brain without knowing what this chip would do, you know, or what are the long-term consequences of it. But I think the first step will be to understand the language of the brain. We have to understand the language of the brain to find out about neurobionic perspectives and to find out about the technical implementation which is able to communicate with the brain.
Yeah, there's definitely concerns on my end. I would never want to put a chip into my brain, but I think that's where the world is heading with AI, and who knows what's around the corner. But yeah, I also just find it fascinating that our brains are studying the human brain. It's there's something quite fascinating about that. We're kind of discovering about ourselves, and it's cool that there are so many more factors to consider. And it sounds like there's so much more to explore that we haven't yet found out, which leads me on to the guest questions. We had a lot of appreciation from JJ. He says, really interesting and powerful conversation. Thank you for sharing your story, Rolf. Great podcast. And Martine's question was, Rolf, Do you think there is a lot more to discover about our brains? And if so, what part do you want to play in this discovery?
Yeah, I think there will be plenty of things which will be discovered within the next years, because we actually find out about the power of collaborations of different scientific disciplines like psychology, neuroscience, information technology, medicine, philosophy, which is awesome and necessary for a broader understanding of the brain, not only the medical perspective, also the philosophical perspective, which I'm always interested in. I'm always interested in philosophical experiments concerning the brain. Yeah, it will be more about the collaboration of different disciplines to find out about the functioning of the brain. And for me personally, I will focus now on medical stuff and the connection between medicine, especially cardiology and neurology, to find out about the connection between the heart and brain, which is also the department I work in actually. It's called the Heart and Brain Research Group, located at a specialized clinic here in Bad Nauheim, investigating specifically the influence of cardiac surgical interventions and the effects it could be on cognition and mental health of cardiac patients.
There's so much to explore there, and I really wonder in your case, with all these different areas to go, is there one that really sticks out to you?
I'm interested in every perspective, especially the information technology during the last years. But for me, I'm a psychologist now, and focusing on neuropsychology in particular. And I also recognize that I think as a that I think as a neuroscientist and neuropsychologist. Let's say I have the glasses of the neuropsychologist in more ways than the technical perspective, the information technology perspective, or the medical perspective. And I like it being a psychologist and thinking like a psychologist concerning the brain function. But yeah, for me, I have to say, I'm always fascinated also by the technical perspective, by the medical perspective, and also like I said, and also the philosophical perspective of the brain, you know.
And is there a certain area at the moment where neuroscientists are stuck? Maybe there's like a missing piece of the puzzle that there's like people just don't yet understand, and it's a common frustration in the industry, perhaps.
The main problem in psychology is a little that we don't know exactly about the mechanisms in the brain, about the cognitive, also the biological mechanisms in the brain, what's going on during recovery, for example, during connecting to new neurons, which is better or even more understandable in focusing more on information technology. Because in information technology, they provide a language, technical language thing to model the communication of different neurons and the interconnection between neurons, which is a cool perspective on how's the brain working and how it could be changed, how the language of the brain and language of recovery, for example, could be changed.
Okay. And do you think there will be, with the introduction of AI, where we'll be able to sort of take over people's brains completely? Is that a real possibility?
There will be to some point, but not concerning the personal experience. This would be a very hard goal to see a brain pattern and immediately know how the person feels from a phenomenological perspective. What's the experience is about, how the person feels in that moment. It wouldn't be great, but it is a cool thought experiment in modeling this from neuroscientific data, you know?
Sure. And I'm intrigued to hear in terms of your mission. You sort of went through the hemorrhage of the brain yourself. Where do you think that desire or that experience leads you now? Is there a goal in mind for you? Is there a particular change that you would like to make in the world in the realm of neuroscience?
In a rehabilitation center, I have to say that the main thing I take advantage of my personal experience is being that I have been to a rehab center also, and it took a long way of recovery, and I could understand the patients a little better in that phase of rehabilitation after cardiac surgical interventions, especially when they suffer also some cognitive decline afterwards. Then I would say I take advantage of this personal experience, but in other cases. Um, Probably there will be ways of exploring my brain, other brains in a different way, but actually I use neuroscientific methods, neuropsychological methods, and this is stated in a medical environment, all this in a medical environment, which is an applied field. But I have to say, for me now, working in that area as a neuropsychologist um, is a little different. It's more a method question.
Yeah, I think what's really cool is that you'll be able to provide compassion to everyone going through the same journey you have, right? And it's almost like you're repaying the compassion, the patience that and support that all these other people have shown to you within your journey, which I think is really awesome. So yeah, I think there's so much of the brain that we're yet to discover. So I'm intrigued to hear sort of all the findings that you're coming up with as time progresses as well. I'm sure we'll be keeping in touch. Before we close off, were there any other insights you'd like to share with the audience or any big lessons from your journey? I know Alexei asked over here what your biggest lesson was from your story so far.
Yeah, I would say the main lesson I've learned is that it always goes on. Every situation is only a situation. It isn't the definite situation you have to always accept because it always changes. It always changes, and yeah, probably a further lesson connected to this one is that also goals can change. It isn't necessary to be stuck into one goal, only one goal, and put yourself under pressure in achieving this goal. But yeah, be more in the moment, in experiencing probably other perspectives and other goals, which are also phenomenal and which would lead you also to happiness, which to a comfortable state, which should be the main goal of everyone, I think.
Yes, I think that's a super important lesson from this podcast, right? We can get so attached to goals and identities and who we think we should be and
Yeah,
what we should be doing. But if there's anything I've learned from your story, and I've learned lots just listening to you, it's that actually it's the small things that play such an important role in our lives, and we can cultivate that joy and real deep gratitude for life just by appreciating everything around us, and even if whatever the goal may be, just taking action and just living in the present, right? And so many lessons from your story. So yeah, I really appreciate you, sharing everything that you've been through, man. Really, really cool. Where can people find you if they're interested about your work and following your story?
Yeah, because it's for me, it's the first time talking about in a podcast format about my personal experience, giving some more information in our division, in our working group, the Art and Brain Research Group. We normally publish with yeah, let's say 2 times a year, sometimes 3 times a year, some scientific articles specifically focusing on mental health or let's say cognitive recovery after cardiac surgical interventions. And it could be found about on via Google Scholar. Probably would be the best, would be the first step in finding our research. It's also the only way in finding my work and our work of our department. Yeah.
Wicked. Yeah, we'll put it all in the description, buddy. But yeah, thank you so much again for sharing your story, and thank you to the live audience too. Great questions, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the option. It was awesome for me, and I'm also surprised how good it worked with my English, which isn't that proper English. I have to apologize for it a little, but yeah, I think it was good for me also that I can recognize more and more that I can express my feelings in a proper way now, in a proper way, which is awesome. Because I normally thought that with feelings it's always better to stay in German, my mother tongue. But yeah, I think there isn't a huge difference anymore in expressing my feelings in the two languages. Yeah.
No, that was wicked, man, and yeah, English was fine. We all understood it perfectly. So yeah, thank you for coming on again, buddy. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Many thanks for the invitation, and I hope that some listeners and you take some insights into my perspective and which you can adopt for you for living here.
Yeah, definitely so, buddy. Definitely so.